Good people of YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot. So I usually wait a little while to do a reaction video about a watch release to think about it for a little bit longer to see how I really feel about the watch, especially if I'm not a fan of it initially. But that's not happening this time because I doubt my opinion is gonna change. These new Seamasters are awesome. But are they awesome enough to make me regret rebuying what I called my favorite watch of all time, the steel Seamaster 300, just 2 months ago? And that was after 5 years of wanting it back. In this video, I'll answer that question and I'll also get into the details of what these two new watches are all about, but also why I think the monochrome version is the best Seamaster 300 release since the original 2018 version through the lens of someone who currently owns 3 Seamaster 300s. Oh, and finally, am I gonna get one? So yeah, I'm excited, lots to talk about. Let's just get into it. Okay, so before I talk about my thoughts, let's get into the details. We've got 2 new Seamaster 300Ms, and while this isn't the first time we're getting a new Seamaster 300, the other versions have been more along the lines of special editions like the 60 Years of Bond, the No Time to Die version, the Necton edition, the America's Cup, many more. I mean, Omega sure loves a special edition. That's why getting a new standard production Seamaster that's not just a color change is pretty cool. The big changes here are the dial and bezel materials and the fact that both watches don't have a date at the 6, which many folks will like. The first version is steel dial with a titanium bezel, a very cool combo, although personally I think I would have preferred it if the bezel had a radial brush on it. I think it would look a little bit cooler, and that would have been real nice. And the biggest addition is the black dial monochrome version that features an aluminum wave dial and an aluminum bezel. More thoughts on that in the next section. The bracelet being offered here on both watches is the mesh bracelet that originally came out with the titanium No Time to Die version. And it looks great, but I've worn it, and for many reasons, including very limited adjustability and very limited flexibility, it doesn't fit, nor does it sit well at all on my wrist. And other people have had this issue too. So, I mean, that's a bit of a bummer, I suppose, but also at the same time, the rubber strap option that it comes with is amazing. Then there's the movement, which is the 8806 movement, which is the no date version of the 8800 found on the standard Seamaster. And actually the 8806 is in the all ceramic Seamaster and also the 60 years, and I think the No Time to Die also has that as well. So yeah, fantastic movements, no complaints here. My SMP over here runs at, I think, like 0.7 seconds a day gained. So I'm very happy. And controversial opinion over here, I absolutely love the HEV at the 10 o'clock position. And honestly, if this version didn't have it, it would have been a big no for me, not because I'm a saturation diver and I need it, but rather because it's now an absolute intrinsic part of the Seamaster 300M design. But I 100% get why people don't like it, messing up the symmetry and whatnot. But if you're hoping for an SMP without the HEV, I mean, I really wouldn't hold your breath if I were you, because it's not gonna change. Oh my God, don't hold your breath. I just remembered the Seamaster that I've seen without the HEV is the Apnea. Super cool watch. They don't make it anymore, but apnea means not breathing. Pun intended, retroactively. Oh, and something else to note is that these have a more pronounced dome crystal, like on the 60 years version and the No Time to Die, although it's not specified on Omega's official website, but it's 13.8 millimeters thick versus 13.6 millimeters on my standard version. So in the end, I think it's gonna wear basically the same. Oh, and the price of both on the rubber strap is $5,900, whereas the one that I have with a date, a ceramic bezel, a laser engraved ceramic dial, and the exact same strap is $5,600. Actually, the $5,900 rubber version is the same price as the ceramic one on the bracelet. And the new mesh bracelet costs $6,500. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the pricing over here. That's wild. And it's wild because the ceramic versions are still really great value because they offer so much, you know, that movement plus that bracelet, which I don't like, but it's undeniably well made. Oh, and how many watches have an engraved ceramic dial? But to pay more money for a watch with an aluminum dial and bezel, which I really like, by the way, and with a mesh bracelet with no on-the-fly adjustment, with just a simple fold over clasp with no micro adjustment, that's why the fitting is just so hard to get right. I mean, at that point, at the very least, should have been the same price as the standard permanent collection SMPs, you know, just $300 and $600 more respectively for the rubber and bracelet versions is just wild. But then again, these are cheaper than the limited edition and special edition ones. So I guess that's a positive. That's what they're working with over here. So for the time being, leaving aside the kind of bizarre pricing, why do I think these two watches, especially the black dial version, are the best Seamaster 300 releases since the original one was released back in 2018? And yeah, the aesthetic and material changes are spot on. The monochrome version being just so clean and relatively simple is so appealing to me because my beloved SMP is not a simple watch, and I love it for that. I love the insane look of the ceramic dial, the way it plays with the light and all that good stuff, and the laser engraved waves on that dial, the ceramic bezel, and all that beautiful case finishing and the awesome case. But put together, that's a lot to take in, which is why I'm now really enjoying the much simpler FXD so much. So seeing a matte bezel and a matte dial with a very subtle wave design and stark bright whiting and lume is making this go all in on the tool watch aesthetic, which is right up my alley. And for my taste and wearing habits, these changes make it much more versatile overall. And I gotta say, I'm happy to see the older wave dial back alongside the modern version, because now having owned the titanium 2231.50 from way back in the day, for a few months now, I'm really enjoying the subtlety of the smaller waves that you can't see all the time. Sometimes it's just a matte black dial, so having that change up is really nice. So yeah, if the new dial is similar, it's gonna be a really, really great dial to look at because it'll play into the more under the radar tool watch vibe of the watch. But beyond that, the use of aluminum is a great choice on its own due to the way it interacts with the light. It's different compared to what you would even get with a matte ceramic bezel, which ends up being more sterile and more matte like on my Pelagos, and also ends up being a far less saturated black, almost gray. And of course, if this had the same shiny ceramic bezel from my SMP, it just, I don't know, it just wouldn't have looked right. I know that some people will be complaining about the bezel being aluminum, but I've said so many times before that a watch using an aluminum bezel, aka the black base, is an aesthetic choice most of the time. But given that the original 2018 version was all ceramic, you know, ceramic bezel and a ceramic dial, I think we can be pretty sure that Omega isn't cutting costs by adding aluminum, especially since they're charging more for it. That's the weird part. So in the end, getting a non-limited or special edition Seamaster with its sterile monochrome look at a lower price, at least compared to the special editions, without a date is gonna be something that will appeal to a new set of people who may have thought that the original was just a bit too much. And that's why I think that this release is just so spectacular. I mean, it just makes sense. So given how awesome this is, will I be buying one or selling my own Seamaster to get the monochrome version? And no. I mean, no. Reason one, I don't have the money to do that, so that's a pretty good reason not to get it. But reason two is that as different as the monochrome Seamaster is, it's still quite similar with the same case, or at least the same case and case size, and case finish for that matter. So I wouldn't be able to justify paying so much to own both without getting rid of a whole bunch of watches. That said, if it was smaller, like 40 millimeters or even 41 millimeters like the older generations, or if the case was fully brushed, that would have been good. Or both, or if this thing was full on titanium, yeah, then I think I would have found a way. Done deal. Reality aside though, in a perfect world, I would absolutely buy one of these immediately. And that's because as similar as these watches are, they are gonna have very different on the wrist experiences, guaranteed. And I can confidently say that without even seeing the watch. That's because the overall change in feel by having a matte aluminum bezel and dial is going to have a huge impact, because like I mentioned earlier, it's going to have far more of a tool watch subtle experience. And you know, once when you throw in that domed sapphire crystal, it's going to be even more old school, especially when it's next to its much more exuberant, I'd say, and sporty ceramic bezel and dial SMP that I have. So here's to hoping prices come down quickly somehow, or hopefully a smaller version, a 40 millimeter version of this would be so good. And hopefully maybe next year they release that. Anyways, there you have it. Let me know what you think down in the comments about these new releases. I know there will be a lot of opinions on these. So yeah, until the next video, good day.